Thank you for speaking to us. First things first. As as a guy who grew up watching, playing football, what does it mean for these kids to have an opportunity with a former Premier League footballer?
I was in their shoes when I was a young kid, so when I was like these guys now, seeing young talent in front of my eyes is what I had when I was young, when all players would come speak to me, and I know the feeling what it's like for them. They're nervous, there's excitement as well. So for these guys, they've just got to work hard. I think enjoying the football, where you see them play with a smile on their face, it's the most important thing. I think a lot of kids now, probably too much pressure with their parents, especially in the UK. So for me to see these guys, it's incredible. And I was saying to Sam, everyone, the positivity around each other. They just want to play football, especially at a young age. Just go and enjoy your football. Play as much as possible every day. You know, watch football games instead of just watching the reels and highlights. Actually go and watch in their cities, in their towns, wherever they're from. Just keep going watching whoever's in their position. Learn and try and pick up on what players they like to watch. Whether it's your Ronaldo's, your Messi's, your Virgil van Dijk's. Just go and watch, and I think you gotta be hungry for it. And you can see with these players now at Excel Soccer Academy, it's great for them to get a massive opportunity. So I want to say it's a big honour for me to come down and speak to you guys and learn as well from their mentality, their characters. So it's exciting.
Everyone talks about being a professional footballer, but if you could give an insight, I know it could take a whole day probably explaining it, but if you could give an insight, what does it mean to be a professional footballer?
It's tough. The sacrifices you have to give. And I always say now to the young players we have at Arabian Falcons and at Gulf United when I was there, is how much you really want it. That's the biggest thing for a lot of footballers who want to be a professional footballer. They don't want it enough. So if you really want it, you've got to work hard, you've got to be sacrificing a lot. And it's not easy. There's times where you go through tough times, not playing well, and injuries, all these things you've got to overcome. And it's tough. You have a very small circle, people who you can trust, and you have to push yourself. There's a lot of people who try and drag you down. And it's self-motivation, I think, for a lot of people, especially these young players now who have come from different backgrounds. And they all want different opportunities. Some will be professional footballers and some won't. Some will have different jobs, and I think it builds your character. Definitely, there's an early age now, just play as much as possible. You learn so much, build friendships, and for me it's exciting to see these guys how hungry they are.
So many people will be wondering, Steven Teylar, I mean, he played lots of years with Newcastle, his boyhood club. What is he doing in Dubai? Why Dubai? Why not somewhere probably in England?
No, for me it was coming to Dubai, working with young African players, and I was given that opportunity to work with them when people were saying they've got no chance. And for me to work with underdogs, as people say, give them an opportunity where nobody would ever look at it. And I think now European clubs are taking three of my players, and this is someone, I've had three guys who are homeless. To work with these kind of guys now and give them the opportunity, it gives me the platform to work with Sam White, and we want to create more opportunities now with Uganda, and the players, the young players coming through. It's exciting for us.
What did you make of the kids today?
You can see it goes back to when I was young. You play with a smile on your face, and you don't need bibs to play. It's like when I was back at school, and this is the feeling that you forget about until you actually see it. It's incredible.
So the next part is going to be purely about a couple of different things. So probably more like quickfire.
Of course,
Yeah.
let's go.
Yeah. So, what do you consider the best team in the world?
Newcastle United. The best by far.
Who's the best footballer? Who's the toughest opponent you've ever played against, and who's the best player you've ever played with?
The best I played against was Ruud van Nistelrooy from Manchester United, and the best player I played with is Alan Shearer, obviously at Newcastle.
Is there any Newcastle fan who doesn't say that about Alan Shearer?
Yeah,
Probably even those who haven't played with
When
him.
you're lucky to play with him, he's incredible.
How big a star is he at Newcastle?
He is Mr. Newcastle. That's how big he is. He is incredible. All-time Premier League top goal scorer, and yeah, as a legend in the game. England captain. That says it all.
Who's the best player at the moment in Newcastle?
For me, I think Kieran Trippier, he is the most consistent player, always delivering assists, goals, and yeah, he's been consistent, doesn't miss games.
What do you make of where Newcastle are, given the troubles that they had to go through, got relegated, came back in the league, now battling, they're in the Champions League, got a tough one tonight.
Yeah, exactly.
But when you see where they are today and where they were a couple of years back, how big a smile do you get when you see it?
Yeah, because I was sick of teams and players, ex-players, talk about how bad Newcastle were a few years ago. Now to see us back in Europe, back to where we belong, it's incredible. And the football that we are playing, it's so good to see. Now we believe we're going to win every game. That's the belief that we have. Playing in Champions League is where we belong. I believe that. And for the city, for the fans, they've been crying out this for a long time.
Who do you think is the best footballer in the Premier League?
The best football in the Premier League?
In the Premier League at the moment.
For me, I think he's out injured at the moment, but it's De Bruyne. For me, I think he is the best, most standout player. He's the composite player. He's obviously injured at the moment, but for me, he is the best.
Messi or Ronaldo?
I want to say Messi.
Why?
I think he is the ultimate kind of team player. He just assists, goals, he's got everything. I think you give him the ball, he just game changes. I know Ronaldo, I've played against him, and yeah, he's obviously record speaks for himself, but Messi is incredible.
Definitely you're a coach now. Who are some of those coaches you look for?
I look at Eddie Howe, Newcastle.
And I was about to ask you, Eddie Howe, Pep Guardiola.
Yeah, of course. I think he's changed Newcastle. The brand of football that he plays, and everyone talks about Pep Guardiola, Manchester City, and Mikel Arteta, how well they've done. But yeah, Eddie Howe for me, it's nice to watch and see Newcastle completely change their style of play and exciting football. You know, football that Newcastle fans enjoy watching. I think as a football fan, you'd enjoy watching Newcastle over any team like Arsenal, Manchester United, so it's nice.
So they also talk about a lot of Pep today, a lot of Jurgen Klopp, of course, Mikel Arteta, the young one today, but looking at the coaches, who's the best coach who's you played?
He's the best coach I've
played under.
I think Bobby Robson. He's a different kind of coach. He was more man manager for the players, and you want to do well for him. Then you have your Kevin Keegans, who is more tactical, and I think it's a complete different type, but two of probably the best we've had in Newcastle since Eddie Howe.
Thank you so much, Steve.
No, I appreciate
just ask you just one request: send people back home a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
With XL Soccer Academy, I want to wish everybody in Uganda a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
So what I'm going to ask you to do, that's for Excel now, because Excel camera is there.
Oh, okay.
I'm both Excel and NBS Sport, so I'm just going to ask you to
okay.
for everyone who watches NBS Sport, wish you NBS Sport. NBS Sport.
Okay.
But it's one word.
No problem.
Yeah, so just wish them a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Yeah, I think with NBS Sport, I want to wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Good luck to everybody.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
Is it MBS?